this, but good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Doing good.
Morning.
Bueno. It
Good
like
morning.
our internet at our office cut out probably I don't know, about 30 seconds before I joined. So you're gonna get me here for right now. So while hopefully that gets pulled up because I wanted to well, it doesn't matter. We'll be fine either way. Um, let's talk about some gratitude. Who or what are you grateful for on this Monday morning?
I want to go.
Go ahead, Brittany.
I am driving back from Tahoe. I got to go see my son Kai, who's hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. We pulled him off trail for the weekend for Father's Day and got to spend some time with him. We haven't seen him since March, so it was amazing, and my heart is full.
That is awesome. Where'd you meet him at?
We had to pick him up at the Reno airport for some scheduling issues, but we spent time in South Lake Tahoe this weekend.
Tahoe. Awesome. So that's awesome either way.
Yeah, it was great. He's going to spend one more day in Tahoe and then he's back on the trail.
Very cool. Is it beautiful right now in Tahoe? I'm assuming.
It's gorgeous.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. I know he's been hiking a lot. So sweet. All right. Who else?
One, Chase.
I'm grateful. Oh,
You go first.
I'm grateful for a wonderful trip to Monterey, and then for the agents that helped cover my open houses.
Nice. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Grateful for a wife that listens to your fun momentum tour.
She even suggested that we play golf while we were there. So
Wow. Winning.
got to play. Yeah, that was solid.
All right. Who did I miss? There was a
I have
female
one,
voice.
Chase. Liz with BC Bishop team over here.
Oh, hi.
Hi
Got you
there.
guys on camera today. Look at that.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Just want to say happy anniversary, 42 years to my husband today.
Wow. Congratulations. So it was David's 2-year anniversary. So what's the secret? Tell David.
Okay, God, first of all. Number two, that saying when you're dating, use a microscope for your prospective spouse, and afterwards use a telescope. There's my wisdom.
Whoa.
So hold on. My brain is not smart enough to comprehend this here. Okay. So when you're dating, use a microscope. So look in really close.
Yes,
And then the telescope is like back up. Like
yeah,
Perspective, baby. Perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Just chill out is what I'm hearing. Very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Who wants to top that? Anyone else got some gratitude they want to share?
I mean, I don't got 42 years, but I celebrated 17 this weekend.
Wow. Look at all these anniversaries.
Young kids.
Congrats, Kyle. 17 years. That's a long time. You got any advice for David? I think he popped off, but we're going to give it to him and we'll tell him to go back and watch the recording. What's your advice, Kyle?
Just like I like the thing, like microscope, like find the right person, and then you can tackle anything if you find the right person.
So that doesn't help David, who already found someone.
Well, hopefully you found the right person.
All right. Very cool. Well, congratulations. David, you just came back. Oh, there he is. David, you just came back and we had a 42-year anniversary and a 17-year anniversary. Both of them gave you advice. You got to go back and watch the recording. So some anniversary advice. All right.
Thank you. My computer died.
Oh, no worries. Okay. Well, what did we talk about on Friday? We talked about the story model. Who was here Friday for the story model? Okay, seeing some hands. What did you guys hear or learn? Let's share some feedback.
I wasn't here for it, but the story model is always reminds me of that, we look for evidence of the story that we tell ourselves, and we create a reality that is not a reality.
Yeah, effectively everyone who comes in to this world, or everyone who's walking through the world, is telling a story, right? Is essentially what you're saying, right? And then we want to gather evidence to support our story. That's the way it works. What else did you guys hear on Friday? Whoever was here, what is this something you already knew? Is it a reminder? Did it make you look at other things?
Well, if everyone's telling a story, might as well make it a good one. Was my takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have no idea what we're talking about, you should go watch Friday's episode. You can find that in our Facebook library. I'll pull it in here in 2 seconds here, just so you guys have the link. It's in the chat right now. But you can always go access our recordings. A lot of our resources that we reference are inside of that link as well. Right at the top, they're pinned. And we just put a new feature in there too, where you can actually go find previous episodes. It's pinned at the top. It's full daily growth content glossary. In fact, I'll just show you guys real quick so you can see it. So you got this. These two are pinned at the top. So there's the Momentum Resource Hub. This has a lot of our just resources we're going to reference. And then you have the full daily growth content glossary. So if you click on this, it'll actually take you to a Google document. And then you can either, scroll down the left. You're like, oh, let's talk about negotiation, or let's talk about personal growth. It'll reference everything personal growth, and you can go back and find where it's at. So pretty cool little feature. It's brand new, so if someone test it out and let us know if you need us to fix anything. Okay, cool. So what are we talking about today? Well, today's Market Monday. I actually think it'd be interesting to talk about this, because I think you guys probably are talking about it now. Before I go into it, it seems like anything that could be related to politics is just, can make us very. We operate very sensitively around this, right? Think about the story we have there. So what I'm going to read is just some bullet points of facts. What I'm talking about is the deal right now between the United States and Iran. Now, some of you probably have way more knowledge than I'm going to reference here. That's cool. Some of you probably have zero knowledge. That's why I'm bringing it up. Your clients this has been impacting our clients, and I'll read through how it's been impacting. And then I want to talk about more so like how you have conversations when you don't know the answer to stuff. So let's talk about the deal. So the United States and Iran signed a preliminary peace agreement June 17th. What it includes is a 60-day ceasefire while they negotiate the final terms. So it's not finalized. The Strait of Hormuz, a major oil shipping lane, is basically already open, is my understanding. It's not a done deal, but it's real and it's significant. Like, it's an actual move in the right direction. So what it means for rates. This is probably what impacts you guys the most. The conflict pushed 30-year mortgage rates up about 0.5%. Rates peaked around 6.75 during this conflict. So over the last 3 months, they went up to about 6.75. Right now, they're sitting roughly around 6.5. They're coming down slowly. So think stairs, not elevator. What it means for buyers. For a lot of buyers, uncertainty has kept them on the sideline. So that uncertainty is starting to shift in a more positive direction. Inventory is the best it's been in over 10 years. This is national numbers.
Real estate's local, so you need to look at your local numbers and find out where inventory's at. In fact, I think that'd probably be a good little exercise is go check out inventory today at different price points and then go look at it, in 2021. See what the differences are. As someone who sold through that, which I know a lot of you did, that the number one issue we were getting is there was nothing to buy. And so that issue is becoming less and less and less of an issue. All right. Waiting for rates to drop could mean facing more buyers and higher prices later. As we know, if homes get more affordable, the likelihood of home prices going up as rates get more affordable, the likelihood of home prices going up increases. So, what to tell your clients? Things are stabilizing. Let's talk about whether now makes sense for you. You don't need to predict geopolitics. I don't think anyone can. Just offer context and a conversation. And then I think the agents who are willing to have these conversations right now, I think are in a positive, they're gonna come out ahead in the fall. And so I know people have been buying and selling through this entire conflict without really any issues. But what I wanted to talk about is a couple things. Just bring you up to speed because this is, there's so much noise. This is actual noise that you probably need to be aware of because your clients are hearing it. Now, depending on where they're hearing it from, they might be hearing two different messages, right? So question for the group here. When you have something like this come up and someone says, hey, I'm not sure I want to sell right now because I'm worried about what's going on. Or they say, I'm not sure I want to buy right now because I'm worried about what's going on. What do you do with that scenario? Does anyone have any thoughts around that?
Tell me more.
So typically I just go ahead. Yeah.
So go with T and then we'll go to Alex.
Usually I'm like, I want them to elaborate a little bit more on it to see kind of what it is that they're hiding from or trying to avoid or, sheltering from. And then they tell me, say, oh, I don't know, selling. I don't even know what kind of objections I haven't really faced too many of it.
Why don't I just be the
person?
Why don't I be a buyer and you can,
sure.
Hey, we really want to buy, but the world's crazy right now. We're just going to wait until things calm down.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I mean, just look, you've seen the news, you open up Instagram, like stuff is just nutty. I'm just worried that if we buy, something could change when we make a mistake.
Got it. And what kind of mistake are you guys thinking is going to happen if you bought a home right now?
I don't know. What if we buy and then, the market crashes?
Okay. What if you buy and it doesn't?
Well, that would be what we want.
Okay. Well, and I guess my question to you is two things. Like, do you have a good enough reason to want to buy right now?
So, yeah, blah. It's what we talked about before.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And do you have the means to do so?
But yeah, we're qualified. We can buy. Yeah, we've already met with our lender.
Well, and I always tell people, if we could predict the future, we'd be sipping Mai Tais on Bali, with our millions of dollars. So, it's kind of a fool's errand to try to predict the market and what's going to happen. So if we are able to do so right now, wouldn't you want to do so? Something along those lines.
So yeah, good job. What do you guys think of that path that she took there?
That was good.
It's got Scott's approval.
Yeah, Teresa, I'm sold. I want to buy now. I was panicked.
All right,
call
Scott,
you later, Scott.
I'll send you a buyer rep.
Awesome. I'll sign it.
Yeah, let's just pick apart what she did there, which I do think it was good. So someone's saying, hey, I'm afraid we're going to buy and the market's going to crash. And you're like, okay, what if it doesn't? You're like, well, that's what we want. Yeah, you got to be careful with the what if it doesn't. Here's my advice. My advice to maybe take it a little bit deeper is so when they say, yeah, we're afraid the market's going to crash, and you're like, okay, well, instead of saying what if it doesn't, I would just ask them, what does that look like? And so have them describe this crash, basically get the greatest fear out in the open, whatever that might be. And so, they're like, well, like it did in 2008, for example. That's a pretty easy reference point. People bought in 2008 and then, their homes were cut in half and everyone was getting foreclosed on, blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, so obviously that would be bad. So what's going to cause that to happen? This is where you get inside of their head. Like, what have they been watching or listening to, or is it simply just a feeling they have? This is where you're really going to get the why behind the why. And to me, I think that's pretty important. Because then you can follow it up with like, well, just curious, like, by when do you think that's going to happen? Because a lot of people, especially if they get into this negativity mode, they usually have a time frame, like, oh yeah, in the next month or 6 months or a year. And then that's when you can follow up with like I'll give you a simple example with rates. So rates are at 6.5 right now, and they're like, yeah, I'm waiting for rates to get lower. And you're like, okay, well, how low do you want them to be? Or like, what's the number you're looking for? So this is an uncertainty thing. Can we all agree? Like, we have no idea where rates are going to be at in the next year. Everyone agree with that? It's very similar to this war. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen. There could be another war. I have no clue. So we don't want to play that game. Let's just ask them what they think. Like, okay, well, what would rates have to be at today for you to buy? And they say 5 or 5.5. And you're like, okay, and by when do you think that's going to happen? And usually they'll have a time frame. And the time frame behind that is critical, because then we can add additional time to that to get them to tell us how serious they are. So for example, if they're like, yeah, I want them to be at 5.5. So they're 6.5 today, I want them to be at 5.5. And you're like, awesome. By when do you think that'll happen? Oh, sometime in the next 6 months. Well, let me ask you this. If it took 5 years, would that be okay? Same kind of principle we can apply to the war. Like, oh, I'm afraid the market's going to crash. And you're like, okay, by when do you think that's going to happen? 12 months. Like, okay. And, so what if it didn't happen the next 12 months? Well, it's going to. And you're like, okay, well, what if it took 5 years? It's the same kind of principle. Do you guys see where we're going here? What you're going to find is when you say, what if it took 5 years, you're going to find out if someone's motivated or not. Because they're going to say, oh, I can't wait that long. Or they're going to be like, that'd be fine. I don't want to make a mistake. Okay, before I move on, what are you hearing there? What's going through your heads?
I mean, you're taking them through the story model and adding pain, which is time, to the situation.
Yep. Through the sales cycle, right?
Or sorry, yeah, the sales cycle. So story models in my brain, but yeah.
Good. What else are you guys hearing?
I think you're finding out how motivated they really are with the time frames question.
Yeah, I mean, I would call it, Scott, a rubber meets the road question. And I'm constantly looking for those questions. It's kind of like a blank or get off the pot, if you will. It's one of those kind of scenarios. Like, are we dealing with someone who's serious about buying and selling today? Or are we dealing with someone who is just wants to complain about things?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that time frame thing is powerful too, because it makes you think about like your own reality, right? Like if you think, okay, yeah, the market's going to crash at some point in the future, which it will. I mean, at some point, nobody knows when.
Yeah.
But if you look back on that one that we all lived through in 2008, 9, 10, 11, you know, if you could weather that storm, you know, it was a 10-year, sort of a decade lost market. But if you're going to wait 5 years just because you think you're going to avoid that, then, and it doesn't happen, like 5 years of market appreciation is going to be way more painful when you try to buy in, you know? So like, what pain are you trying to avoid?
A great point, Scott. And something I would add to that is this is where stories can come in big time, right? So like having the knowledge of like, yeah, if you people who bought in 2008 have a ton of equity today. They do, right? They have a ton of equity. Everyone who bought in 2008, you know, would love to have owned more in 2008. You know, maybe not, as long as they could afford it, right? Which goes back to what Teresa did, which I think is powerful, is remember those two questions, you know, and I wouldn't necessarily ask them like, do you have a good enough reason? I'd say, remind me again, why are you buying? What's important about that? Ideally, how soon would you want to make it happen? Like, I'm just digging and digging and digging, right? And then once I have all the info, then I'm going to be like, okay, it sounds like you have a really good reason to buy. So knowing that, you know, can you afford it? Because one of the biggest things, other countries, guys, are super jealous of our financial system around purchasing homes, the 30-year fixed mortgage. That instrument is powerful. A lot of countries don't have that. But you got to remind your client, like, here, it doesn't really matter if the market crashes. You're locking in a price today, forever. You're locking in a payment for 30 years. And at the end of that 30-year, with a traditional 30-year mortgage, you're going to own the home. So, you know, versus like, what's the alternative if you don't own a home, if you rent? Right? Because that's the alternative. Because by the way, if they're like, the market's going to crash and they own, what does that mean for the home they own? How are they protecting themselves against that? Like, isn't it going to be the same scenario? You're just going to live in a home you don't like? You'll be stuck at that point because you can't move. Let's get stuck in a good one, right? So, but if they're not a homeowner, then it's like, okay, well, what does that look like for renters? Does anyone know a renter who has a 30-year fixed payment for the next 30 years as a renter? Here, better yet, think about the average rent in your town. What do you think it was 30 years ago? Right? Like we have a 3-bed, 2-bath in our area. It's probably about $2,000 a month right now. 30 years ago, I'd be blown away if that was more than like $500. So that's a 4x. And I'm pulling that number out of thin air. I have no idea. I honestly don't. Does anyone know? Any of my Boise folks?
Hey, yeah, 30 years ago, Chase, because I do remember that. $400, you could have a big house in the North End, easy.
Wow. So even less than I was thinking. Wow. So there you go.
Alan said it was in the slums, but the whole North End was the slums back then.
Yeah, and now it's like the fanciest.
Yeah,
neighborhood in our town.
nobody wanted to be in the North End. It was kind of funny. For sale signs everywhere.
Hey, I remember partying out there when I was in high school. That was 30 years ago. What do you got, Michael? What's up?
I guess this is more of a question, kind of going back to what you're sharing, Chase. Sorry, I lost my voice earlier this week. It sounds like kind of I really like the question as far as like, hey, if it took 5 years, you know, would that be too long for you? It sounds like you're trying to mine for objections or mine for like, hey, what are reasons why you wouldn't today? Versus, I don't know if like trying to change the mindset of like trying to immediately go to overcoming objections. Because we've heard hey, the interest rate not the best right now. If the question was, well, what would that ideal interest rate be? You know, say it was 5.5%, going immediately to like, well, hey, we actually have clients through a rate buy down that were able to get this. would that change it? Like, I don't know if trying to immediately try to go to overcoming objections is more helpful, or if we're still trying to mine for like, hey, what's kind of some hindrances? Because we have first time home buyers where they are so motivated, it doesn't matter what objections there are, like, hey, we're going to figure this out. And we've had people that, hey, it seems like the stars have all aligned and yet you're not buying right now. And then we come back like a few months later and then we realize, oh, they actually went ahead with someone else because they, I don't know, something else came up or something else fell into place and they end up moving forward. I'm not really sure what the X factor was there for them. So I'm just trying to figure out like what's the best, like, I don't know, way to mine for and yet still try to overcome objections in like in the same conversation. Because sometimes with certain buyers, we only have one or two like really good conversation points before, the opportunities move past. I don't know if that question makes sense.
Kind of. We'll see if I answer it anywhere remotely close to what you're thinking about. So a couple things. I actually would be remiss if I didn't say like unlike the war, which we don't know, we actually have a solution for the rate thing, right? Which I want to paint him into a corner. One of my favorite like sales coaching things to teach agents is think about like sales judo, if you will. So I want that buyer to swing at my face. That way I can grab their arm and throw them right into the home they're going to buy with their own momentum. So what do I mean by that? So I want to suck them in. So this is not answering your questions, but this is about the rate thing. So for example, if someone's like, yeah, they'd need to be at 5.5, and you're like, awesome. So if I found the perfect home for you today and you got a 5.5% interest rate, would you buy it? That's a rubber meets the road question. And now they're going to be swinging at me. They're going to be like, hell yeah, I'd buy it. And you're like, awesome. That's exactly why we should meet. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm getting people into homes today at 5.5%. So that's on the rate thing. So just know that that's there. How do you get that? You can get it through new construction. You can get it through seller concessions. You can do pay down. You can do all sorts of stuff. Okay, so park that for a second. So his question is like, how do I know when to handle the objection versus when to ask more questions? I can promise you, Michael, you need to ask more questions. I can promise pretty much every agent on here, you need to ask more questions because we don't go deep enough to really truly understand what's going on with our clients. We just start to prescribe things, right? My running joke is when people used to come into, I used to work at a builder, new construction builder. I did that for 5.5 years when I first got in the business. They'd walk in and I'd be like, hi, I'm Chase and you are, and they'd say their name. And I'm like, cool, check this floor plan out. They walk in, I'm like, look at this one. You know why we call it this name? Because it's got these windows, but this one's that one you could tell because these windows. And I would just freaking yap, right? So basically I'd ask no questions other than their name. I did ask one. And then I realized like, hey, if I can figure out what these people want, I actually can do a better job helping them get it instead of just trying to get lucky. So what's my point? Well, go back to the rate thing. They're like, I could buy, I'll buy when the rates are better. And you're like, well, you can get a better rate right now. And then they're like, well, our kids got to graduate from high school, right? And then they just bounce around. Amateur agents, we'll end on this. Amateur agents are avoiding objections like the plague. They're looking for, how can I get a yes? But the seasoned veteran killer agents, the ones who are closing multiple deals a month, these people are seeking objections out and looking to squeeze, like, think about you're like wringing a towel out and you're getting all the water out of a towel. They are seeking those objections just like you would be seeking to get all the water out of the towel. Why? Because they know that all the wasted time they've had and all the no shows for appointments they've had and all the people who back out of deals that are at random, it's all because they didn't handle objections. They actually didn't seek those out. So I'll give you a real life example so you guys can see. Like, there's an agent. She's not on here. Oh, she is on here. So I'll leave it. You don't have to say anything. But this person would set appointments like crazy, and then a lot of people wouldn't show up. And so you start to understand why. It's because they're avoiding objections. And so here's what happens.
Shots fired.
Oh wow, she unmutes. Well, hey, you're not the only one. You're just one of the most recent ones that I was thinking about, and I saw you on there. So here's what happens. They're like, "Hey, Michael, let's go ahead and meet," and they're like, "Okay, sounds great." And they just ask questions. Where do you want to live? What do you want to do? Okay, great. Let's meet. We'll talk about it. And then they schedule a meeting. And then the let's say it's the wife. Wife gets up the phone. Honey, great news. We're meeting with the realtor. We're going to buy. And then the husband's like, we can't afford to buy. And she's like, well, yeah, they said we'll meet and we'll talk about it. No, there's no way. We've got to save 20% down. And then that's it. You never handled the objection because you didn't even know it's there. You didn't even know there's multiple decision makers. And all of a sudden they ghost you. Do you guys understand? That's like one example of 5 billion examples of different ways that you get ghosted because we're not seeking to answer and handle all of their objections. Which I don't know if that's the right answer to your question, Michael, but hopefully that helps a little bit.
It was. Thank you. And this may be a follow-up for another time. I think what I was trying to hit at and didn't do the best job at, there are a couple that fit into a box of you ask all the questions and they just don't seem ready to buy. And you can't really figure out the why, but they just don't seem ready. And like, how much time do you actually continue to try and invest into them?
Okay.
Versus just like, let go.
So you're right. I don't have time today, but here's what I'll tell you to do. Go look up sales cycle. And if you're go to our Facebook group, look up sales cycle. I think we did one a week or two ago. Go watch that. And then come back with your questions to that. All right, guys. Market Monday. Hope this was helpful. There is the talks of a peace deal. That's great news. Hopefully it works out. But even if it doesn't, you guys will ask great questions and help your people reach their goals. So have a great day, guys. See ya.